on this interesting topic. It's time we begin the event. I invite Gopika from IEEE for the welcome speech.
Thank you, Somaya. A warm good evening to all. It's with immense pleasure that I am here before you to partake in this weekly webinar talk. Indus Society Weekly Webinar Series is organized and conducted for the general audience to gain insight and information on the latest trends in the fields of technologies and engineering. Today, we have gathered for the 76th webinar on role of solar PV systems in this future energy scenario. Sustainable solutions to the energy crisis are always topics of interest to ponder upon. But the realization of the same has always been a question of debate due to the cost and efficiency. A periodic revisit on the status of existing technologies like solar PV systems in the current framework is essential to understand the possibilities in future. And for delivering talk on such a relevant and interesting topic, we have a highly experienced and acclaimed professional. It's a privilege that Dr. Janardhanan, Professor and Head of EC Department in KMCT College of Engineering, Calicut, has accepted our request to deliver this talk. We welcome you, sir, to this evening. Every event needs active organizers who work tirelessly to make things run smoothly. I welcome all the role players and office bearers in the organizing committee who are sincerely committed to make this event a success. Finally, yet importantly, I welcome all the dignitaries and participants to the wishing a beneficial webinar experience and extending our hearty welcome to the gathering once again. Thank you. Over to you, Somaya.
Thank you, Gopika. Now, I would like to introduce our honorable speaker for today. Professor Janardhanan, PhD, is a person of immense talent and ability who has outstandingly shone in his field. He is the professor and head of KMCT College of Engineering, Kalantor. He did his BSc Engineering in 1968 from the University of Kerala, NIT Calicut in Electrical Engineering. He further pursued his MTech in 1976 from IIT Bombay in Electrical Engineering. He then did his PhD in 1990 from the University of Calicut, NIT Calicut. His fields of interest include digital signal processing, microwave engineering, electromagnetics, and renewable energy sources. His research guidance include 1 PhD and 21 PG dissertations. He has reviewed 25 research papers, including that of IEEE. His journals and conferences include 32 in number, including IEEE research publications in journals. He also has professional society memberships of IEEE, IETE, CSI, and ISTE. He also has 48 years of teaching experience and a research experience of 25 years in electrical engineering. Now, it is time to welcome our chief guest, Professor Janardhanan sir, to enlighten us through his knowledgeable words. Sir, please.
Good evening, all of you. At the outset, let me thank a renowned personality, Sir Harindra sir, and his team for giving me an opportunity to talk to the august audience of IEEE members, and others also may be there, on a relevant topic. With due respect to energy experts like Professor V.K. Damodaran sir and others in this gathering, let me bring to you some points related to the present and future energy scenario. So I have given the title of this talk as Role of Solar PV Systems in the Future Energy Scenario. A great scientist, Albert Einstein, a few months before his last breath, have marked these words. All these 50 years of conscious brooding have brought me no nearer to the answer to the question, what are light quanta? So from his words, now the International Solar Alliance is an alliance of many countries on solar details and implementation have come forward with a vision. What is the vision? Let us together make the sun brighter. And the mission of ISA is every home, no matter how far away, will have a light at home. So in my talk for the day, I would like to cover these topics. Say an introduction, present status of renewable energy, present status of solar photovoltaic systems, Indian energy scenario, photovoltaic effect, solar cells, solar modules, panels and arrays, types of solar electric systems, applications, comparison with other electric systems, feature trends, and conclusion. So coming to the introduction, we know that all of us know that there are various forms of energy. There are mechanical energy, electrical energy, chemical energy, nuclear energy, thermal energy. And which are the sources of this energy? You can see. One is fossil fuel. Fossil fuel means the conventional fuel, coal, petroleum, and natural gas. Then hydraulic systems, small and large. Nuclear systems, fission and fusion types. Chemical systems, batteries and fuel cells. Solar systems, thermal and electric systems. Wind energy systems, onshore and offshore systems. Ocean systems, tides, waves and thermal. Conventional biomass, modern biomass systems, hydrogen energy, alcohol energy, and geothermal energy. Now, let us answer the question, why renewable energy? The first reason is the oil shock of 1970s. That is the first oil shock of 1973 and the second oil shock of 1979. I think all of you might be knowing what is this oil shock. And the second reason is that use of conventional fuels cause global warming. And you know that global warming is the issue of the day because unless we take special care on this thing, the existence of living beings on Earth may be a question mark. The third reason is that fossil fuels are limited in supply. Anyway, we will have to do away with fossil fuels in future because that is of limited supply. The world agencies, the first one is United Nations. So they have got a goal on sustainable goals. So the 13th of the 17 sustainable goals of UN, it is take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Climate change, you know, that is a global challenge that requires coordinated international cooperation. So another agency is World Energy Council. So what World Energy Council or WEC says about this climate change and global warming, greenhouse effect, etc. That is, the time for talking is done. If we are going to meet the energy needs of science societies and address the real risks of climate change, we need to step up our game for renewable energy. It is never going to be easy, as it requires new policies, new systems, new leadership, innovation, and sheer willpower to collaborate effectively across multiple sectors. So another important agency is IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency. So what they have to say, let us see. A consensus has formed that an energy transition grounded in renewable sources and technologies that increases efficiency and conservation is the only way to give us a fighting chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade by the year 2050. Now it is 1 degree centigrade compared to the pre-industrial times. So you may wonder, what is this 1.5 degrees centigrade? The global temperature is going on increasing as we have been using the conventional fuels. And people concerned about this met together in Paris in 2015 and came up with an agreement called the Paris Agreement. And there they were telling, this is a legal agreement actually. By 2050, the global temperature rise should be limited to 1.5 degrees centigrade. 196 parties had signed in that one, and it was signed in 12th December 2015 and came into effect on 4th November 2016. So every 5 years, each country or each party of 196 parties have to present what they have done to achieve this aim. Now another agency is Renewables 2021, this short called REN21. So what they have to say is that they have seen that a large number of countries adopted comprehensive policies directly linking decarbonization with increased deployment of renewables. Policy mechanisms implemented in 2020 that can indirectly stimulate interest in renewable energy included fossil fuel bans, phase outs, greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, and carbon pricing and emission trading systems. So with this introduction, let us come to see what is the present status of renewable energy. So energy is used in thermal fields, that is the largest use, 51%, and then transport, 32%, and electrical power, 17%. Out of that, the contribution of renewables in the thermal side is 10.2, and that for transport is 3.4, and that for energy, electrical energy is 27.1. So that is, as far as the contribution of renewables are concerned, this is the status. Now in the total energy consumption, that is called the final energy consumption, total final energy consumption, TFEC. So the figure corresponding to 2019 is 381 exajoules. Exajoule is the basic unit of energy. Exajoule, that means 10 raised to 18 joule, is a big unit of energy. So the consumption is 381 exajoules. So it may come to, in terms of our terawatt hours, it will come more than 1 lakh. Out of that, 25% is contributed by modern renewables like ocean, wind, solar, and geothermal and modern biomass. So this gives the contribution, country-wise contribution of renewables in the year 2019. So India, it is around 10%, whereas Brazil contribution is about 40%, etc. And some countries have put a target, but India has not put a target for the 2020, etc. So we have to, people concerned and people who are decision makers can think about this problem in detail. So every year, renewable power is being added. So we can see in the 2020 year, the total renewable power addition is 256 gigawatts. 256 gigawatt. Out of that, that yellow, that is the solar PV is maximum. Then comes the wind. Then comes the hydropower. So in future, as far as the renewables are concerned, the competition is between wind power and solar power. So wind power, you know that it is very pure, but the difficulty is that it is very much limited. For example, in India, only Gujarat and some areas of Tamil Nadu only will be having sufficient wind to generate wind power. Whereas solar is having an upper hand already, and in future also let us see what is the contribution, what will be the contribution of solar power. So renewable power additions in total from 2010 to 2020, that is the yellow portion that is increasing, and 2020 it is 83%. So addition is not the absolute value, it is the addition every year. So in the long run, definitely the renewable power will be catching up. So coming to the electricity production, that is the unit taken is terawatt hour. So 26,823.2 terawatt hour is the figure in 2020. And out of that, renewables have contributed 29% of that. So remaining thing is conventional, or mainly the fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas. And some amount of nuclear power is also. So let us see the cost of renewable electrical energy. So here again you can see that is from 2010 to 2020. So you can see the gray area, that is the fossil fuel area, and the cost of wind and solar have come down much less than the fossil fuel, this one. So now as the technology stands, nobody can complain that the renewables like solar and wind, the cost is high. That is not the case now. So we can say that 100% renewables is possible. In recent years, we have seen plunging costs of renewable technologies. That is the reason. Countries as diverse as Costa Rica, Djibouti, and Sweden have set targets to become 100% renewable in their power sectors, among many other countries. Iceland and Norway already produce all their electricity from renewable energy. Denmark is at the forefront of this movement with a 100% renewable energy target. So many countries have really progressed in this one. Now we'll see what is the status of solar PV systems. So we can see here that is as far as the solar PV additions are concerned, China is number 1, then comes United States, then Vietnam, and then countries like Japan, Germany, India. India's addition is 3%, Australia, etc. So solar is catching up, that we can say, but still the percentage of solar power compared to other power is much less. So the total solar power now is 760 gigawatt all over the world. Out of that, in 2020, 139 was added. Okay, so the solar power is more and more solar power is being added up. But you see that it is less than 1 terawatt hour, whereas the total electrical energy produced is about more than 25,000 terawatt hour. So percentage wise, it is much small value. Now we will see something about the International Solar Energy Society. So International Solar Energy Society has been formed to look into the possibilities of increasing the contribution of solar PV systems. That is ISES, International Solar Energy Society, aims to bring recent developments in solar energy, both in research and applications, to the attention of decision makers and the general public in order to increase the understanding and use of this non-polluting resource in everyday life. Okay, next we'll see the Indian energy scenario. So in India, we have got the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy to look into the future scope of renewable energy, especially solar energy. So the solar and wind capacities in India. So it is around, as far as the wind is concerned, it is around 40 gigawatts, whereas solar is concerned, totally it is around 44 gigawatts. So the installed capacity for solar is around 44 gigawatts. That of wind is around 40, more nearer to 39 gigawatts. Now, what is the solar energy scenario in India? You know that the potential of solar energy is much high. For example, India gets about 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour per year from the sun. And the world, they get much larger, because the area is much large, and it is around 1.5 into 10 raised to 6 trillion kilowatt hour. So not only in India, but for the world as a whole, the potential of solar energy is much high compared to other systems of energy. Now, with this in view, MNRE in India has set up an institute, National Institute of Solar Energy, to investigate and guide, give guidance for implementing solar PV systems. So it is situated in Gaul, Pahari in Haryana with a 200-acre campus. Now, India has got a national solar mission. So what does that say? That is, the mission's objective is to establish India as a global leader in solar energy by creating the policy conditions for solar technology diffusion across the country as quickly as possible. The mission targets installing 100 gigawatts grid-connected solar power plants by the year 2022. Now it is around 44 gigawatts. So it has to be stepped up to 100 gigawatt by 2022. Now, having seen the importance of solar photovoltaic or PV systems, let us see a little bit in detail about the solar photovoltaic systems. First, we will see the photovoltaic effect. So it is a method of generating electric power from solar radiation using semiconducting materials like gallium arsenide, silicon, and organic materials, etc. And such a semiconducting device which converts solar energy into electrical energy is called solar cell or photovoltaic cell or simply PV cell. So this is a symbol of the solar cell. So this is a schematic of a PV cell. So nothing but a PN junction. You can see the bottom one is P-type semiconductor, top one is N-type semiconductor. So the P-type, when irradiated with the solar light, the P-type will become positive terminal, N-type will become the negative terminal. And when it is connected through a load, a current will flow. So we may wonder how much will be the voltage. The voltage typically will be 0.5 volts. And how much will be the current? The current will be typically 2 ampere. So what will be the power output of a single solar cell when it is irradiated by light? That is 0.5 volts into 2 ampere. That means 1 watt. So it will be, basically it will be DC. So 1 watt of power will be available from a single solar cell when it is irradiated with solar light. So normally single solar cells are not manufactured. They are manufactured as a solar PV module. Okay. So there may be say 36 modules or 63 modules, 63 solar cells or 81 solar cells. If it is 81, then maybe 9 into 9. So they will be connected in series and parallel to get the required voltage, and the power also will be increased. So solar modules, panels, and arrays. So the leftmost is a single solar cell, but that is not manufactured in an isolated way, manufactured as a module. It is a PV module. There may be many solar cells in a module, and many modules put together we get a PV panel, and many panels put together we get a PV array. So large solar electric systems will have a PV array having large number of PV panels. So this is a simplified diagram of solar PV system. See, solar panels produce, when it is subjected to the solar energy from sun, it will produce DC energy, and this DC energy will have to be converted to AC energy so that we can connect to lamps, fans, etc. So that is done by an inverter, and that itself can be used AC, or if you want to use it somewhere else, so it will have to be through a network meter, it will be connected to the common grid. So either the solar energy can be used where it is produced, or it can be transmitted through the network anywhere else. So types of solar electric systems. There are mainly 3 types. It is standalone systems, hybrid systems, grid connected systems. The top one is the standalone system. So you have got the solar panel or solar array, then battery, inverter, and control system and load. So we can use or utilize the solar energy there itself at the location where the solar energy is produced. Or there is the second type, that hybrid system. So one difficulty of solar PV systems or the solar system is that the power that is available to a particular location on Earth is intermittent. So in a day, 4 or 5 hours only we'll be getting, even if there is no cloud and all that, we'll be getting solar energy. So remaining time, we may not be getting solar energy. So during that time, we can have a diesel generator to supply the energy. Such systems are called hybrid system. And grid connected system, that is the third type. So whatever energy is produced from the solar panels or solar arrays is converted into AC and it is given to the grid so that it can be used anywhere. Now let us come to the applications. So one is the water pumping. So we have to convert, because it is DC. The output of the solar panel will be DC and it will be converted into proper AC voltage and depending upon the motor. So 3 types I have shown here. So maybe DC motor or a low voltage AC motor or high voltage AC motor depending upon the capacity, etc. So that is a very simple thing. Only thing is that from DC we have to invert to using an inverter. We have to convert to the AC energy. So another popular application of solar energy now is a typical solar street light. So we might have seen solar street lights many places on the road, etc. So even though it is a slightly costly now, but it is very much advantageous because it is self-supporting. Nobody need any maintenance and all those things for it. So in a street, if you have got such systems, so it can be illuminated in a very nice way. And home lighting system, you can see here also we can have it. We need not depend upon theoretically because there are so many things to be considered here. We need not depend upon the common grid for the power. If we have got a solar array system or solar PV system, we should procure the panels, then charge controller, battery, and the lighting system. Lighting system will be already having. The only difficulty is that you should have a battery because always the power is not available. Daytime solar power is available, but nighttime solar power is not available. So it's a photo of a typical solar voltaic system. See, the blue ones are the solar arrays, and the other ones are the inverters, etc. And the grid is also shown there. One photo. So solar PV power plant, another one. So you can see any hilltop can be used to lay the solar panels, and so that we get a large amount of solar power out. So this is the picture of Bhadla solar PV power plant. So we can be proud of this one because this is at present, this is the largest in the world, and the capacity is 2,245 megawatt. So that is the largest solar power plant now. But we cannot be content with that one because many countries are competing, and next day the announcement may come that another plant is the biggest. Now we come to the important thing about the solar PV plant, because we have to compare why solar plant, PV plant is important. So let us make a comparison. First, as usual, we come to the advantages of the photovoltaic power. First one is short lead time to design, install, etc. That means once this is made, the design and implementation of solar PV system will not take much time. Compared to other systems, it will take less time. Then second one is highly modular. Hence, the cost will not depend on the size of the plant. So even if you are going for the small size of the plant, we can do that. The cost will not be very much different from the large plant. Third one is the power output matches well with the load demands. So it is, the maximum solar power will be available during the noon time, and the demand also may be more during the noon time. And it is having a static structure, no moving parts, hence no wear and tear and noise. Fifth advantage is that high power capability per unit of weight. Sixth one is longer life with little maintenance. It is a very good advantage as far as solar PV is concerned. Seventh one, greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are not produced. Thus, global warming is avoided. That means for energy, if you are depending upon electrical energy, and we know that for our energy needs, electrical energy is the best because of the efficiency and all those things. And if we go for the solar, the global warming problem can be solved. That means the 1.5 degrees centigrade global warming target by 2050 can be achieved in this way only. So that is a legally binding agreement, even India has signed that one. Eighth one, solar energy is free and inexhaustible. So that is very, very important, because any time this solar energy will be sufficient, available in sufficient quantity. Total solar energy available, you can see. So for around the 4, maybe 3.8 or 3.9, I taken it as 4 into 10 raised to 26 watts. That is the solar energy that is available. Or in other words, the sun produces 4 into 10 raised to 26 watts of power. Now, if we convert that into watt hour, multiply by 24 and again 365. So that will be the watt hours per year. And if you want to convert that into terawatt hour, multiply by 10 raised to minus 12. So around 3.5 into 10 raised to 18 terawatt hour per year. So even the total consumption is around 1 lakh terawatt hour. Electricity is around 26,000 terawatt hour. The total energy need now it is around slightly more than 1 lakh terawatt hour. But the energy available from sun is much, much higher than this one. So let us see the disadvantages. High initial cost. Second one, solar energy is intermittent, as I already told. And third one, cost per unit of electrical energy is high. It means it is initial cost as well as the cost per unit is high. But it is these three. No, first and third one is no more valid now, because as solar technology improves, all the above disadvantages can be effectively eliminated. But the second disadvantage is a major one, and unless we have the storage systems of energy, as on today, it is a real problem. Anyway, we'll come to that. Let us see what is the future trends as far as the energy is concerned. Total renewable electrical power in 2020 is 2,800 gigawatts. And total renewable electrical power target in 2050 is 27,700 gigawatts. It is almost 10-fold. And total renewable power to be added each year at that rate is 840 gigawatts. And total renewable energy actually added in 2020 is 264 gigawatts. So we have to step up the renewable power every year. And coming to the solar PV power target in 2050 is 14,000 gigawatts. And wind power target is 8,100 gigawatts. And other renewable power target in 2050 is 5,600 gigawatts. Here again, by 2050, solar PV is going to be the biggest contributor of renewable energy. And electricity generation must expand threefold by 2050, with renewables providing 90% of the total electrical energy supply. Now it is only 29%. By 2050, should be 90%. That is, a contribution by the renewables should be 90%. So electricity consumption, you can see 2018 figure, it is 22,315 terawatt hour, and 2030 it is expected it will be 31,070 terawatt hour. That is, they are given 1.5 degree scenario. That means if you want to see that the global warming is limited to 1.5 degrees centigrade by the year 2050, by 2030, the electrical power generated should be 31,070 terawatt. And by 2050, it will be around 50,000 terawatt hour. That is 49,000 to be exact, 49,225 terawatt hour. So electricity generation target in 2050 is 49,275 terawatt hour, and renewable contribution should be 90%. That means almost all the power generated or energy generated by 2050 should be from the renewable sources. And by the year 2050, electricity will become by far the most important energy carrier. Under the 1.5 degrees centigrade scenario, electricity consumption in end-use sectors would more than double compared to 2018, reaching 50,000 terawatt hour by 2050. So, by 2050, the electricity production will be per year will be 50,000 terawatt hour, and around 20,770 terawatt hour will be needed to produce hydrogen by 2050. So that is, this production is needed for the transport section. So future transport vehicles will be run by electric motors. But from where they get the electrical energy, and mainly it will be from fuel cells. And how to produce energy using fuel cells? For that, the fuel is hydrogen. So the hydrogen will have to be produced in large quantity, and electrical energy needed to produce this much of hydrogen by electrolysis process will be 20,770 terawatt hour. So the direct electrification share of final energy consumption would exceed 50% by 2050. That is, the electrical energy will be 2050. That means now it is 21% in 2018, and by 2050 it will be 50%. And in total, direct and indirect electrification would reach 58% of total final demand by 2050. So we already seen that solar system have got only one disadvantage mainly. That is, the power available is intermittent. It is due to the rotation of the earth and the cloud, that is the rainy season and all that. So solar power may not be always available. But there a scheme has been proposed by many countries, and many countries like Japan, US and China are all working to eliminate this drawback. That is, power from satellite stations. So solar PV systems will be installed on satellites. Okay, so now satellite technology is very much advanced. So solar power panels can be installed on satellites, and the advantage is that on satellites there is no night time. Always it will be noon time only. So solar energy will be always available. And it is there, outer space you can say. That is, the geosynchronous orbit is about 35,600 kilometers above the Earth. But from there, this DC energy is converted into microwave energy or laser, and it is focused to a receiving antenna on Earth. And this receiving antenna will receive that energy and will convert that into AC of 50 hertz or 60 hertz as the requirement is there, and can be transmitted by the common grid to any place. So in theory, it is workable. It was proposed as early as 1968, but because of the cost of launching satellites and other systems, it is not developed. But countries like Japan and all that are trying hard, and US has already made a prototype of that one, this system, and definitely in future it is going to work. So the third limitation of solar PV system also will not be there. So, ongoing challenges towards a renewable-based world. The developments during 2020 highlighted some of the key ongoing challenges impeding the widespread adoption of renewable energy. They include the slow increase of renewables in total final energy consumption, the need for more innovation in some sectors, the need for infrastructure development and increased affordability in some markets, the lack of sufficient policy support. So underline that lack of sufficient policy support and enforcement and persistent support for fossil fuels. So in some corners, support for fossil low carbon energy technology. The reasons are great improvements in technology, price and performance. So technology wise, there is no difficulty, there is no limitation. 2. Development of creative business models that have spurred investment in solar PV systems. So there only the problem comes. That is the business models or the economic side. There are many problems. Once that is solved, definitely solar PV will come up. Recent years have seen rapid growth in installed solar generating capacity. That is reached 760 gigawatts in the year 2020. The addition 2020 itself, we have already seen 139 gigawatts. So the conclusions which I want to put it here is that International Energy Agency, IEA, has made a forecast that by the year 2050, a good portion, that is 17%, of the total electrical energy produced in the world would be solar electric energy using photovoltaic effect, i.e. using solar PV cells. So by 2050, they predict that 17% of the total electric energy will be produced by the solar PV systems. But even after 2050, what will happen? As time passes on, due to the advantages of solar photovoltaic systems, it can be predicted that the major part of electrical energy produced in the world would be contributed by solar PV systems. So with this, I'm concluding my talk. I once again thank Harindra sir and other organizers for giving me an opportunity. And I thought that, it is because it is related to the policy making and all that, somebody this one, like the Varun sir and all that, may be able to highlight more on this topic. And thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. That was truly a wonderful session. We got to understand and learn a lot from your presentation. Sir, we do have some questions in the chat section from the participants. Can we move on to the question and answering session?
Okay. Yes.
Sure, sir. The first question is, there is a reduction of hydropower from 2014. Will you please explain the reason for this fall?
That is a reduction in hydropower.
Yes, sir.
It is obviously, the limitation, because we know that, for example, you take the case in Kerala itself. Large hydroelectric plants are not coming up because there is no proper site possible. Without environmental pollution and that, if you want to create one more hydroelectric plant here in Kerala, it is going to be very difficult because it is limited in its this one. That is why slowly it may come down. The site limitation, such suitable sites suitable for large hydroelectric systems are limited. And now that is why many places they think for a small hydropower. Small hydropowers maybe more sites may be there, but the total power that we can get from there is limited. That is why the contribution of hydropower, even though it is a renewable and there is not much carbon dioxide emitted from there, etc. It is somewhat clean. All those things are there, but it is limited in its capacity. Okay, did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
The next question is, what are the limiting factors India is facing to increase the installation of solar energy to maximum possible extent?
Yes.
The production of solar PV modules in India is not catching up. What are the reasons?
So that is a very interesting and important question, and that is the point. So I think somewhere I mentioned here itself what are the challenges for towards renewables. It is because some technology is already developed. So a new technology coming up will have a lot of resistance, many corners. That is one reason. The other reason was we have got a belief that solar systems are costlier. But now we have already seen that the cost per unit of energy is less than fossil fuels. So why can't we go for solar PV systems? And definitely there is a decision. It is with the decision makers who have to decide. For example, Indian Institute of Science, my friend is there, so they wanted more electric power. So every lab they wanted to set up some 2 megawatt of power, but they are going for the fossil fuels. That means oil run diesel generators and synchronous generators for that one. That is a question of decision. But when governments impose policies, that means carbon. If you emit, if your system emits carbon dioxide, you will have to pay for that, or you will not be able to commission that. If such a legislation is there, and for that, as told earlier, some willpower from the decision makers will have to come up. So I think I answered your question.
Thank you, sir.
What are the limitations? Why people are? Your question was that why people are not going for solar PV systems? That is mainly because the solar PV systems relatively new technology. So the decision makers will be reluctant to go for that. They are afraid, we can say, whether if we go for that, whether it will be completed or not. Whereas the other one is readily available because it's already developed, and we go for that. But a time will come. Definitely, we have to go for solar PV systems because it is unlimited in its capacity, and it is not contributing to the global warming at all. You know that if people know that if you burn 1 liter of diesel, it will be producing about 2.4 kilograms of carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide increases the global temperature by means of the greenhouse effect. So the decision makers, whoever might be, they have to think seriously about these things in future. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question is, the PV cell has a period of 20 years. What will happen to the discarded PV cells? Will it not cause environmental pollution?
That also is a good question. That is, normally it is said that 20 years. But as the real technologies say that it may not be 20 years even. It can continue because there is no wear and tear. Nothing is there, why a solar cell should get damaged after 20 years? They are giving guarantee for 20 years, but why it should get spoiled by 20 years? There is no wear and tear. Suppose there is any system where there is a wear and tear, after some time we can say that, just like electric motor, and the winding, because of the temperature rise, the windings may, the insulation may become bad, and also the bearings may become bad, all those things. But as far as the solar cells are concerned, there is not the solar panel may continue to be used for a longer time. But they are giving a guarantee of 20 years only. And once it becomes damaged, correct, we have to find out methods where it can be disposed without any environmental pollution. But that is there for almost all the systems. And solar, it will be minimum because there is no wear and tear, no moving parts. The disposal will be minimum in solar PV system.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
The next, yes, sir. The next question is, in the present grid connected solar power system, the solar power is connected to the household connection through a relay system operated on KSEB supply. Hence, we can use our own power from solar panel only if KSEB is available. When will this interlink be overcome?
I think the question is that the linking with KSEB power and our own solar power, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, in my opinion, the solar power, if we have got a solar PV system, we can use it for our own purpose. But by some or other, we are producing more than what is required, then we can give that to the electricity board or the common grid. And that is a provision for that in Kerala. Even if it is small power, electricity board will take that. Whereas in Tamil Nadu, they say that, unless you supply a minimum 1 megawatt and all that, we will not take. Small amounts of power we will not take. But in Kerala, KSEB, they are ready to take even small amount of excess power that we are having. So, we'll be getting revenue from that also. But the question is that whether at present, as you see, at present, the economic side of that one will have to be worked out. That there may be for that, there may be many reasons. One thing is that the solar panels we should be getting at this correct price, because as the world records show that they have become very much reduced. But whether in our market, are we able to get it? That is the question. If there is any hindrance for that, that we have to work out. Now, it is around 1 kilowatt capacity, about 1 lakh will be required. Definitely, that is a bit more. That is why many people are not installing solar PV power. Because when you look into the economy part now, it is much costly. But the cost should definitely come down. Already it has come down, but only thing is that there's the world market, it has come down. Because the research and development in this area is too great, and the real cost of solar cells have really come down. But we should be able to get it at the reduced price. Then we can think of installing. So the cost will not be a problem. And whatever excess power we are making, we can connect to give to the general grid or KSEB and get some revenue for that. But financially, I agree that at present, as on today, whatever we are available, cost-wise, solar PV systems are costlier here. But in the international market, the cost has come down. Definitely, that will be within a few years, that will be reflecting onto our market also. So the cost will not be a problem. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question is, now we are entering the era of electric cars. And what is, in your opinion, the best way we can combine solar power to make batteries for battery charging stations? And is there any modular system to combine them both?
Say that I already told on that one. So what the technologists already say is that we produce hydrogen in a large scale. And not now hydrogen is produced to a smaller scale from the petroleum and all those things. So that will cause global warming again. Instead of that, using electrolysis. So electrolyze water, then we get hydrogen. And for that, electricity is needed. So you produce electricity using solar PV systems and produce hydrogen in large quantities, and wherever is required, you give hydrogen. And once hydrogen is there, that is the fuel, and fuel cells can be run using hydrogen. So what you have to, in electric cars or electric vehicles, what you have to supply will be in future only hydrogen, that is a compressed hydrogen. Just like gas now supply, similarly compressed hydrogen. So every fuel station will be having compressed hydrogen with them, and if we are short of hydrogen, get a new hydrogen tank that way. Now we know that it is the batteries. The batteries also there is a lot of development, but that is not the technologies forecast that may not be working because it is difficult to have solar PV systems every fuel station, and that may not be possible. So the fossil fuel will have to be used. So somebody was telling in as a fund. That is, the electric cars are charged by electricity produced by fossil fuels, by using petroleum. That means diesel. We have a diesel generator, and the output of the diesel generator is used to charge the battery. So that is not the proper way, That because the global warming cannot be limited that way. So we have to depend upon electrical energy produced by solar PV systems, and electrolysis. Using electrolysis, we can produce hydrogen in large quantities, and all the places, instead of now we are having this petrol pumps or the diesel pumps. Instead of that, we'll have hydrogen every fuel station. So when it's a car, if hydrogen is short, you can refill it, or refilling may be difficult. You can replace that empty vessel with the other one. Okay?
Yes, sir. So the next question is, sir, I understand that Kerala cannot adopt solar energy generation because of the dearth of land required. How far is this information reliable? And if it is...
Okay, can you please repeat that question, Kerala?
Yes, sir. Sir, I understand that Kerala cannot adopt solar energy generation because of the dearth of land required. How far is this information reliable? And if it is, do you have any suggestions to overcome this issue?
Okay. See, CLS implemented solar PV system in Cochin Airport, If they can get space for solar PV system, anybody else can get that one. It is a question of vision, far-reaching vision. That is the decision makers there. They made a correct decision there. And we have got the Banasura Sagar floating solar plant. Or we can make such a solar plant in Idiki reservoir, all the reservoirs, and wherever there may be a lot of spaces. And then there are concepts like solar trees, so that, you know, the area required will be much less, because solar trees means, you know, we'll have, it will be having solar panels on a post. So it is possible. So what the thing is that we can make a calculation of what is the area available in Kerala, and out of that area, how much power can be generated. So as far as, because I don't have the details about the Kerala, this land and all that, where solar PV can be put. But in India, you know, we have seen 5,000 trillion kilo terawatt hour per year. So even if we have a small portion of that, that itself will be more than sufficient for our entire electrical needs. It is said that, you know, only 3% if we make use of that one, it will be sufficient. So Kerala also will have sufficient area where we can install solar PV plants. But that is what is a good example is there, you know, that is Cochin Airport and Manasara Sagar, that's way. And many houses are also having, so we, rooftop systems are there. That may be limited, but wherever can install solar PV systems. Then let us see, we have an initial estimate of that one, and I think then a good amount of solar PV power can be produced in Kerala also. But you know, as far as the electrical power is concerned, it can be transmitted. All of us know that, you know, can be transmitted. Even if in Kerala, it cannot be used, it can be produced wherever large area is available. Where the population is not much, we can generate there, and we can get from them. Either we can buy or we can have a solar plant there. So in Rajasthan, you know, that is 2 gigawatt, more than 2 gigawatt of power. That will be more than 4 times of our Idiki power plant. Okay.
So, sir,
Yes, sir.
May I interrupt? Harindralal here.
Yes.
Sir, Pari sir, please.
We are getting late. We shall.
Yes.
So,
okay.
I request the MC to switch over to the next program. Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yeah, please. Go
Yes,
ahead
sir.
with you. And vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Now, thank you so much, sir, for those words of wisdom. Now, let me welcome Aishwarya from IEEE to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sumaya. Am I audible?
Yes, Aishwarya, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you all for attending the 76th talk of the Inter-Society Weekly Webinar Series. I would like to express an immense gratitude to our speaker, Dr. P. Janardhanan sir, for delivering such a wonderful and informative session on such an innovatively emerging topic, and also for answering all the queries regarding the same. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you.
We would also like to thank all the organization and dignitaries involved in our initiative for this continuous support. Next, I would like to thank our team members, our MC for the day, Ms. Sumaya K. Ashrafadi, our Zoom master, Ms. Amrita Aravind, introduction to the speaker, which was also given by Ms. Sumaya, and a welcome speech, which was given by Ms. Gopika. Thank you, team, for your joint efforts. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the attendees present here for their kind cooperation. Thank you all, and over to the MC.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Once again, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our honorable chief guest for taking his precious time out of his busy schedule to be here and for sharing with us your valuable ideas and thoughts on this important topic. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, welcome. Thank you, Sumaya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, right.
Now, I would like to inform you all about our 77th talk, a panel discussion on Industry Institute Interaction and Government, professional liaison by Professor V.K. Damodaran, moderator, fellow IE India IEEE Life Senior Member, A. Suhail, member of Energy Working Group, State Planning Board, Dr. Saji Gopinath, Vice Chancellor, Kerala Digital University, and Dr. N.N. Panikar, founder, Sahajivan Swaraj Initiatives, which is to be conducted on next Wednesday, September 29, from 6 to 7 p.m. Hope to see you all next Wednesday. Thus, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you all. Meeting is now officially dispersed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Janardhanan.
Adil sir. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you and your team. Okay.
Have another program. So
okay, okay. Right. No.
Thank you very much for a great presentation. Thank you for the
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. We'll meet you.
Good luck, sir.
Sir, can I end the session?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.